pop in the chat and let me know how your day is going. Give me something that you're grateful for today so far. You can see that I've already dropped in the chat what we're going to be talking about today, what the 3 main points are as per usual. Let me just make sure that we are live in Facebook and that I can pull up questions. There we are. I see myself now. How is everyone doing today? Hello, Jen. Hello. Okay. So while you're hopping on, if you want to be engaging, amazing. If you are busy multitasking or starting your morning, getting your coffee together, getting your life sorted, that is totally fine. Feel free to just listen as well. But we do have the chat here, so you can feel free to drop anything that is coming up in here as we go. And the replay will also be sent out and be put in the Facebook group. So however you would like to go about it is perfect for you. Okay. Multitasking morning, but we'll be listening. Amazing. Grateful for the sunshine and to be here. Love that. It is a beautiful day here today as well. So love me some fall vibes. Okay. So this week for Align and Allow, for this episode number 16, we are talking about the magic of cycle syncing and how you can harness this inner power so that you can actually start doing less. This is one of those things that I really loved when I started my journey, because it basically gave me like a structure that I could kind of choose to use as a practice for not just how I was showing up to be productive and to work, but also for that intuitive part, for following my intuition, for getting connected to what that actually means and what that looks like, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'll break down the 3 main points of what we'll be diving into. Again, this is going to be like a very short and condensed version. There's so much that we could be going into here, which, I mean, we could talk about this for hours. Maybe this is something that we need to do a whole challenge or a whole masterclass on, and we will see what happens. See how you guys feel about things as well. But like I said, it's going to be very short and condensed. If you're new here, Align and Allow is a weekly mini training series. So it's kind of like your mini weekly morning show or your like little Align and Allow podcast where you can get your coaching tips on how to do less and achieve more, for really tapping into your aligned way of working and ditching that overworking, toxic masculinity way of doing things, the way that we've basically all been taught and conditioned to show up, right? So we're going to be talking about the coaching tips for that and the mindset shifts. And of course, that is all tied together in whatever topic we are focused on for this week. So some quick housekeeping. I just want to give you a rundown of what's going on right now before we dive into the content for today. I will be opening, or I have opened up the Do Less strategy calls again. They were open at the end of September, and they were massively successful. They got booked up like within less than a week. And the women who walked away from those calls really had a good grasp on what their next aligned action step was for doing less, what their Do Less strategy looked like based on where they were at right now. And so I wanted to make those available again. This time, instead of 6 calls, though, I'm only offering 3 calls. So I'm going to be dropping the link. If you're watching the replay to that, the link will be dropped in the email or in the description, or you can get the link right now. It's in the chat. On top of that, I have one intention intensive left open in October. The intensives, if you're new to that, is really just a really intensive session, one-on-one, where we dive into a very specific topic, whether you're wanting to look at why you're procrastinating or the perfectionist tendencies that you have going on. Maybe there's some people-pleasing boundary pieces that you're wanting to look at that you know are keeping you from actually being able to, take back your time, work more productively, have more time for the things that you actually want to be doing, have that time freedom that we're always talking about here. And then I have 2 spots left for one-on-one coaching. And that's what the rest of 2021 looks like. So in one-on-one coaching, we work through the time freedom framework, which is really customized to you, where you're at, creating that aligned way of working, your feminine flow blueprint, so that, again, you are aligning yourself with your time, how you want to be spending your time, and you're actually getting things done quicker. We're going to be talking about that today as well, and how you can start with this cycle syncing strategy for doing that. And really stepping into the lifestyle of time freedom, which is why most of us are here, right? You're ambitious. You want to do things. You have things to make happen in your life, but we want to do that in a sustainable way and in a way that feels really good for you, right? Okay. Now that the housekeeping pieces are out of the way, here are the 3 things that we're going to be talking about in today's episode. So first and foremost, we're going to be talking about what cycle syncing is. So if this is a new term for you, do not fear. I'm going to be diving into the main pieces, need to know parts, so that you're really up to date on everything that has to do with cycle syncing and why it's such a powerful tool for harnessing this thing called your feminine flow power. And feminine flow, again, like I mentioned before, is something that I work on and work through with my one-on-one clients. And really what that means is moving away from this masculine focused way of working and shifting into this feminine flow way of working. Most of us are in this heavy masculine sphere of really sticking to strict structures, even when they don't feel good, pushing and forcing ourselves through things when we know we're exhausted. And that's often how we end up in burnout and all the other things that, relate to that. And so we want to be leaning into this feminine flow. And so I'm going to be sharing with you how you can do that with cycle syncing. Number 2, we're going to be talking about the Spark Notes breakdown of the 4 phases. I don't know if this is still a word. Maybe it's called Cole Notes. I don't know what the correct version is anymore. Maybe someone could tell me. But basically it's like the quick and easy, like when you needed to read a book in high school and you're like, didn't have time to read this. I'm going to get the Spark Notes version of the main points that I need to know. That's basically what we're going to be doing for the 4 phases of your cycle syncing method. And then finally, you're going to be getting your aligned action. As always with these align and allow episodes, you always get an aligned action at the end, which is a very small and simple implementation tool for you to actually start doing and using whatever it is that we're talking about in this episode. And that's what we're going to be doing in terms of cycle syncing for today. Okay, let's start with point number 1. So what is cycle syncing? Why is it such a powerful tool? How can you use it to harness your feminine flow? And as a result of that, expand your time. That's why we're here. We want to have more time. We want that time freedom, all that goodness. So let's just start off by talking about the fact that cycles exist everywhere. Cycles are part of nature. It's literally like we can point out anything that happens. We have the seasons, we have the moon phases, we have the times of day, we have noon, we have midnight. Like we're constantly going through these cycles and they repeat themselves within their different time frames, right? We can also talk about our own cycles as women, our menstrual cycles. We go through that every single month as well, very similar to the moon cycle that happens. So everywhere that we look, we can really start to pull out the cycles that happen. And what we're really going to be looking at today is the fact that we are taught to pretty much ignore these cycles, right? Wendy says Cool Notes was what I used as a kid. Mm-hmm. There used to be a bookstore. Okay. Yeah, I used to Google it. So I think that that's a little bit different. But I'm sure it still exists. I'm sure it does. Who knows? As long as we're all on the same page in terms of what Spark Notes means when I say that, that's what's most important to me. Okay, so back to this concept of cycles. There are these cycles that exist everywhere in nature. Again, the seasons is what we're going to really be focusing on today, just as a basis for the explanation. But we're really taught to ignore these cycles. And I think a really, really great example of this is the way that we frame our menstrual cycle in specifically Western culture. And I'd be super curious to hear what your experiences are. For those of you who have menstrual cycles, what messages you received growing up in terms of was it bad? Was it a nuisance? I definitely can relate or can identify with that narrative around, oh, it's just something that gets in the way and it's kind of a struggle and it's kind of just, again, something that you have to deal with, but it's a nuisance. That was really the energetic framing around that, right? And again, it's really perpetrated in our society as this thing that gets in the way, oh, you have to get you have to take time off because maybe you have really, really bad cramps or you have endometriosis or any kind of other, medical thing related to your period. And it's a problem. It prevents you from being productive. It prevents you from being able to show up in the expected societal way. And I think it's really important to identify what is that expected societal way, right? It really comes down to it needing to be the way that work has been framed, which has been from a masculine dominant perspective, right? And so when we look at the way that we are taught to show up to work, it really happens in this 24-hour cycle, right? So if we think about how you were taught to do to-do lists or the way that we even feel about getting things done, and let me know how this resonates with you as well. Do you make your to-do list for the day of that day? Like, and then everything that goes on the to-do list, is it kind of this feeling of like, oh my God, it all needs to get done today? And I can say for myself, and I see this a lot with clients, where this is really the flow that most of us are in, because this is what we've been taught. It has to happen today. You only have 24 hours in the day. And it's like, well, what happens next? Well, then tomorrow starts and you have to have a new 24 hours in the day. And like, you have a new to-do list, and whatever didn't get done yesterday, like, is somehow a failure, right? Let me know if this is like feeling like it's resonating with you and your experiences. So again, like I said before, it's really important for us to take note of where these narratives are coming from. And so this 24-hour period is in line with the male hormone system. So the way that they experience their hormonal cycle is within that 24-hour period, right? And so as women, especially when we are already within this, narrative and system that says that our bodies are a nuisance, or that the way that we're showing up doesn't like uphold that dominant standard at every single second of every single day, we're not able to really even explore the way that things could be different for us, because this expectation is that things happen within a 24-hour period, right? It's exactly spot on, totally. So with that being said, when we start to look at the way different seasons play out, and we are going to be talking about your cycle today and the moon cycle, but we're going to be breaking it down based on the seasons. So spring, summer, winter, fall. When we look at any of these seasons, they all happen in their own time frame. And the reason why this is so important is because it gives us a really great overview of how we can start expanding our time, that things don't have to exist within this 24-hour period, and that we can really start adjusting the way that we are setting ourselves up for productivity, for success, for rest, because we are not trying to squeeze everything into a 24-hour period. So for example, just because you only have 24 hours doesn't mean that you have to be the most productive and also do your self-care routine and also, make sure that you went and did your workout every single day. Like, we can really use the knowledge of expanding time and these different lengths of different cycles to kind of rearrange when we're doing things and how we're doing them. Does that make sense? Let me know if you're following. Okay, so let's talk about the Spark Notes breakdown of these 4 different seasons. So what I want to start off with, because I really want to make this short and sweet and digestible, is that most of us spend our time, if we're talking about the actual seasons, and that's how I'm going to be explaining this to you, we spend most of our time in the season of spring, the energetic season of spring, and the energetic season of summer, okay? And the main theme of spring is to initiate and plan. And the main theme of summer is to execute and be visible. Those are the energies that go along with those particular seasons, okay? And society, and the way that we've been taught to work, teaches us to stay in a cycle of spring and summer, spring and summer, spring and summer, constantly planning and initiating new things, and then executing those things and making them visible, right? So even think about yourself and reflect on how you tend to go about projects in your life, right? Do you tend to, once you've completed something, or even think about in the past, maybe you're becoming more aware of this and you're already shifting things, which is amazing. But even thinking back to past you in your past self life, were you the kind of person, or are you the kind of person who completes a project and right away it's like, okay, what's next? What can I dive into next? What can I create or achieve or do next? And again, being the ambitious women that we are, this is totally natural. And with that being said, our subconscious mind is constantly asking us to want to achieve that next thing, because that's part of our survival. It's like, okay, great, we've done this, we've built the house. What comes next? Okay, we need to forage for food. Whatever that survival instinct was at the time, we're now applying it to our lives and what we want to be achieving now. So it's actually a really positive thing that we are wired to want to achieve and create the next thing. That's how we find fulfillment. It's being connected to that sense of purpose. However, we're also missing the other 2 crucial seasons within this, or phases within the season, right? Like, where's fall and where's winter? Basically, they don't exist in our society because of this expectation that we've been taught in this narrative of how we are taught to work, how we've been conditioned that we constantly need to be doing. Let me know if that resonates with you. Like, that feels stressful even saying to me, but the reason it feels stressful is because it takes me back to that time in the past where I was like, yes, this is true. This is what I need to be doing. And like reconnecting with those emotions, even just saying it, I'm like, oh, that was a heavy time, right? The feeling of constantly needing to be on, needing to be doing, needing to be creating, and having that a lot of the times being tied with feeling good about ourselves, that's hella stressful, right? And it's not just stressful in an emotional sense, but it's also really stressful on our nervous system and on our immune system. And it's what ends up bringing us to this point of fatigue or burnout or exhaustion, right? So because we spend most of the season or most of our time in the seasons of spring and summer, the way that we want to move into connecting more with cycle syncing and expanding time is starting to find ways in our own lives to incorporate more of the energies of fall and winter. And again, the way that I like to talk about this, especially when we're shifting into a new season. So when we shifted into fall, I brought up the fact of, okay, this is the fall energy. How can we tap into more of these energies right now in the way that we're showing up? But that doesn't mean that it can't be, summertime and you're tapping into an energy from a different season simply because that's what you feel like you need. Let me know if that makes sense. I just want to be clear that we don't need to be in the actual seasons to be tapping into that energy. It's just that those energies tend to be more amplified during the season that we're in because we're all collectively going through that, right? Yes, I never knew winter ever. I was always go, 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 totally. And like so normal. Most of us live all of our lives in that space, right? Because that's what everyone else is doing. So let's talk about the energies really briefly of fall and winter. So fall comes after summer, obviously. And instead of shifting back into spring, what I really want to challenge you to do is come to a point of reflection. Like, what is the season of fall about? Let's just kind of start there. The season of fall is harvest season, right? We're harvesting what we've planted in the spring. We're harvesting what bloomed in the summer. We are kind of having this culmination phase of like coming together after having been really active, after having been initiating. And what that really comes down to is reflecting, like what went really well, what maybe didn't go so well, what can I celebrate? Like think even about like a harvest festival, like celebrating eating the good food that you've like planted over the summer and like that's now ready to be eaten. It's now ready to be enjoyed, right? Like how can we lean into what you've created and enjoy the process of either having achieved it or celebrating your accomplishments or kind of riding out the wave of still being in it potentially. So that's really what the energies of fall comes down to. And then winter is like legitimately hibernation. Like what do animals do in winter? And this is why I love using the seasons to break this down, because we can so clearly kind of tap back into that inner child and that inner child like awe and magic of what happens in this season. Well, everything gets really quiet and like all the fields are covered in snow, depending on where you live. But like, I'm thinking like Northern Hemisphere, aka like Canada, my experience of it being like really snowy. And so, okay, things are being covered, things are quiet, things are settling down. And what I really like to think about in terms of imagery and how I can use this energy for myself, and this is the example that I give my clients as well, is winter is that time of hibernation. And it's kind of like this fertile void. Like nothing can grow in the winter. We're not digging up the snow and like forcing the soil to, bloom this seed that we've planted, right? It just is not going to work. And it's going to be really frustrating. We're going to be in a place of feeling irritated because we're trying to make something happen that isn't happening or it's not happening fast enough, right? Like, can we start to see how these kind of thought processes are relating to the way that we might be showing up in our work? Like this, okay, I'm trying to plant this thing and like, why is it not working? And like, I'm trying so hard and I'm feeling exhausted and like, it's not growing. And why is it not growing? Right? Like it's the same cycle that's playing out in the way that we're showing up to work when we're trying to plant something, when we really need that time to be in hibernation, in rest, in complete receiving mode, essentially, right? We're allowing things to come to us. And this is one of the things that I think is really, really crucial to just as a way to wrap up the importance of incorporating fall and winter into how we are showing up in work, is when we create this space, when we stop forcing things and we really give ourselves the permission to be and to receive, as opposed to be in this proactive place, that's when we create space to allow. And I'm fully going to like bring it back to the name of this series because it's just so true. Like once you align with the way that you want to be showing up, with the way that you want to be working, AKA, this is one of the ways that you can be doing that, aligning with the season that you're in, aligning with the phase of your cycle that you're in, aligning with the energy that you're feeling that's coming up in your body right now. When you align, you actually create space for things to come into your life. You allow things in as opposed to forcing things to happen, right? And again, it's shifting the energy of how things are happening. If we're forcing, you're creating resistance. It's going to be really hard for you to achieve the thing that you want to achieve in the time frame that you want to be achieving it in, right? If we're coming from a place of receiving, receptiveness, openness, allowing, we're able to flow with that stream of the river as opposed to trying to force ourselves upstream. Is that making sense? Let me know if you're following. I'm not going to go into too much more detail just because I don't want to go over and don't want to complicate things too much. But basically, I'm just going to end with saying we can apply those 4 seasons that we've talked about today. So spring, summer, winter, fall into the 4 phases of the day. So morning, noon, evening, midnight. We can apply it to the phases of the moon. So waxing moon, waning moon, full moon, and new moon. And we can apply it to our own menstrual cycles as well. If you have a menstrual cycle, and that would be your follicular phase, your ovulation phase, your luteal phase, and your menstruation phase. So again, I don't want to confuse you too much with the words. I just want to really emphasize the fact that these cycles exist and we can be tapping into these different energies in a lot of different time frames. So whether it's within the day, whether it's within the month, whether it's within the seasons, and it's a really great way to start expanding your time and really making sure that you're getting all the different parts of the cycle that you need so that you can come back to a season of summer, for example, and really go and be in that productive energy and feel really good and energized by it, as opposed to constantly expecting yourself to be in this place of productivity and forward momentum, right? How's that feeling for everyone? Perfect sense. Okay, amazing. Let's talk about your aligned action. So we're going to keep this really simple because I know, especially if this is a new concept for you, there's a lot of pieces that go into it and it can definitely feel overwhelming sometimes. And that's totally not the point of me sharing this or how I want you to feel in this space whatsoever. This is meant to really feel like, okay, yeah, there are other ways that I can do this. And maybe you want a little bit more support so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. But the point is that there are other ways that you can do this and it gets to feel really good. So therefore, we're going to start with a really short and simple aligned action for you to take so that you can start creating more time and more energy and really start to give yourself the time and make the space to slow down and also make rest part of your strategy. I think that this is a great way to start doing it so that there's not this pressure of like every day I need to show up for self-care. Of course, that's amazing. And I highly recommend finding your rhythm of rest, your strategy, so that you can be incorporating it on a more consistent basis. But this is also a really great way to have one time throughout your month where you're really intentionally slowing down. So here is your aligned action. If you have a menstrual cycle, I want you to open up your calendar and find the date at which, or approximate date at which you will have your next period. If you don't have a menstrual cycle and you want to do this, which I highly recommend you do, what I would love for you to do is pull up your calendar again and mark the date in the calendar where there's the next new moon. So that is going to be November 4th. I'll tell you that one right now for free. You can also find it on Google for free. And what I really want you to do on those dates, or just pick one date. So obviously November 4th, if you're following the moon, and one day of your period when you know it's going to be coming next. And I want you to make a note in your calendar to block off some time during that phase. It can be an hour, it can be 30 minutes. If you can take a whole day or a morning or an afternoon, amazing. I would also encourage you to just lean into what feels best for you. Like if taking a full day sounds really scary and uncomfortable right now because that's not something that you've ever really done before, totally fair. Let's not start there. I want you to start with something that feels like a little bit out of your comfort zone, but not totally sticky. Okay. So in that case, an hour, if you can take an hour in your evening, if it's during the week, or maybe in your morning on the weekend, is amazing. Okay. And what I really want you to do is then book it off in your calendar in this next phase and make that commitment to yourself right now that you're going to take whatever time period that you are giving yourself to really rest. Okay. And when I say rest, it means like, what does my body need from me in that moment? Can I take a bath? Do I want to just lay on the couch? Do I want to put on some classical music? Do I want to light some incense or put on my diffuser? Do I want to read a cozy book? Like, what are some ways that I can really slow down? I do recommend leaning more into the concept of doing nothing. So if you're feeling really called to read, and that's something that feels really restful for you in that moment, try and read a book that doesn't really overstimulate you, because again, it's about really getting present in the slowdown. Sometimes if we're reading something that's really stimulating, we can start to distract ourselves with that. So just being mindful of that. But again, like I said, if you can lean more into like that feeling of doing nothing, like, can you take a nap? Can you put on some classical music and just lay on the couch? Maybe you want to like just sit in the sunshine. Like, what are some things that you can do that really are like as close to nothing as you can get? Does that make sense? Let me know how that feels. How does that aligned action feel for everyone? And let me know if you're committed to doing it. If you want to drop it in the chat, even if you're catching the replay, put it in the chat and everyone in this group can hold each other accountable to that. Okay. Okay. So that is your aligned action for this week's episode of Align Allow. I'm excited. Yay, Jen. So excited to hear that. Again, this is such a huge topic and I wanted to keep it short and sweet, but I've been talking about it a lot and I've been getting a lot of messages about it. And so I wanted to make sure that I could address it in a way that was short and digestible. If you want to know more, booking one of the Do Less strategy calls is a really great way for us to start to dive into that and actually look at your situation. How can you be incorporating this? I can explain it in more depth, answer your questions specific to your situation as well. If you have any other questions, if anything wasn't clear from this training today, drop them in the chat. I will come back and answer all of them. And yeah, that is all from me for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was so lovely to see your faces this afternoon or this morning for you. And I'll see you guys in the Facebook group and I'll see you next week for the next episode. Have a great day.